Let me tell you something when it comes to the classic movie called Belly, man. Nas did a great job playing Sincere. DMX was amazing playing Tommy Buns, but Louie Rankin stole that movie playing Ox. Lennox was the man in that movie, y'all. That was an iconic role. That was Louis Rankin's first acting role. As a matter of fact, it's crazy because when it came to his acting skills, he didn't really have to act because it really was who he was in real life. It just came naturally to him. And when it comes to reggae and dancehall music, he was big in the early 90s alongside Shabba Ranks, Super Cat, Buju Banton, Ninja Man, and all of them, many more. He called himself the original Jamaican Don Dada. But the way that he died was so tragic, man. And he was about to take his career to another level. So let's get into his story, right? Now, Louis Rankin's birth name is Leonard Ford, and he was born in 1953 in St. Thomas Parish, Jamaica, but he was raised in Rockfort, Kingston, Jamaica. He was one of 7 kids from his parents, and growing up, his mother gave him the nickname Louis. Now, around the age of 9 years old, he stated that was when he really got into music. He said he always loved music and watching Western movies. He loved Western movies because he loved big guns. But as far as music, he started performing in school and at local events, and he continued to do shows as a teenager, becoming popular around the neighborhood. Then, he and his family ended up moving to Canada. After that, he ended up moving to Brooklyn, New York, and he started freestyling and DJing in clubs, and his name started buzzing, and he became very popular around the way. Now, the first song he actually recorded was called Up and Down, and he had signed to a record company called Clay Pot Records, which was owned by Vivian Blake, who was a notorious Jamaican drug kingpin and leader of the Jamaican Shower Posse. He had that song, did that song back in 1983, and he was also featured on a reggae dancehall compilation album titled Tidal Wave that same year. Now, after that, right, in an interview, he stated around that time, he said he beat his first murder charge. He said overall, he beat 3 murder charges in his life, plus he's been charged for coke and heroin and distribution. In 1992, he ended up getting a record deal with Mesa/Warner Brothers Records, and he released his full debut album titled Showdown. Now, the single titled Typewriter was a big hit, and it hit #1 on the charts. Louis said that song was inspired by a special gun that was in Jamaica that sounded like a typewriter when he be letting off shots. Wow. But you know what? Louis, he won a Grammy. He won a Grammy that year for the song Typewriter off that album Showdown. And he stated that he made about $1.6 million during that time from that Typewriter song. Now, the following year in 1993, he released his second album titled Lethal Weapon. After that, he continued to do music and perform, but then at one of his shows he was doing in Queens, New York, right? He had got word that one of the greatest video directors of all time, which was Hype Williams, wanted to meet with him. And Hype Williams told him that he wanted him to play like the Black Scarface for his movie titled Belly. And he didn't even have to audition. Wow. Louis said when he got to that movie set, everybody was there. Method Man, DMX, Nas, T-Boz, everybody. He was actually the last person that Hype Williams had cast, and Hype just told him to be himself when it came to the script. Now, at first, Hype Williams wanted his name to be Brad, but Louis said, ain't no gangster named Brad, and that's when DMX gave him the name Lennox, aka Ox. And in 1998, he played Lennox, Ox, in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Belly. Man, I love that movie, Belly. That's my Belly, man. That's my joint right there. I just watched that the other day too. But like I said earlier, Louie, when it came to that movie, Louie kind of stole the show and was the breakout star in that movie. You know what's crazy about that movie, Belly? Hype Williams said in an interview that if DMX wasn't able to play the character Tommy Buns, he was going to reach out to Jay-Z. That was his next option. What y'all think? Y'all think Jay-Z could have pulled off that movie better than DMX? I mean, I don't know. I never seen Jay-Z act really in a movie. But Hype Williams also said that there was no prop weed on that set of Belly. So every scene when characters can be seen smoking weed, it was the real deal. They were smoking real weed throughout that movie. Wow. And look, the guns were real too. The guns was real and everything. Louie said the feds came on the movie set and asked him how did he know how to shoot an AK-47 like that. Wow, that's crazy. Now, another fun fact about the movie Belly is Basketball Hall of Famer Magic Johnson refused to put that movie in his chain of movie theaters around the world because he said the movie had too much violence and negative depictions of African Americans. Wow. They also say, Magic Johnson, he refused to play the movies Booty Call and Money Talks also in his theater. But anyway, the character Ox took that movie Belly to another level. And he said there was supposed to be a sequel to Belly. I mean, I seen the part 2 with the rapper Game in it, but during that time, it was supposed to be a sequel to Belly because at the end, he had got his throat slit, but Hype was going to make it where he survived that, getting his throat slit. But anyway, right after that movie, Louie said he was in talk to be in the Steven Seagal movie called Exit Wounds, but him and Steven Seagal got into a heated argument about the Mark for Death movie on how he treated and disrespected the Jamaicans in that movie. So he didn't get that movie with Steven Seagal, so they gave it to DMX. They gave the role to DMX. And DMX spoke about how disrespectful Steven Seagal was on the set to him, and a bunch of other people did too. Now, in 2002, Louie played Teddy Bruckshot in another one of my favorite movies I love called Shottas. He stole the show in that movie too. Him and Spragga Benz did real good in that movie. You know what's crazy about that movie, Shottas? It was never released in theaters or on DVD in the beginning. It was just so popular on the streets and bootleg heavy for the first 5 years. Then when Shottas did go into the movie theaters and DVDs, it made millions of dollars. Louie also stated that he was the one that got DJ Khaled a role in that movie Shottas. But there was talk about doing a part 2 to the Shottas, but we shall see in the future. But Shottas, that's another classic gangster movie in my opinion, man. I love that movie Shottas too. Now, in 2007, he appeared in the video You Know What It Is for rapper T.I. featuring Wyclef. In 2008, he played in a movie titled Roman Lion. In 2009, he was featured on Gucci Mane's song titled Murder for Fun, which was a Young Jeezy diss song. In 2012, he had did an interview and he called out Jay-Z and Beyonce for wanting $3 million for a picture of their child Blue Ivy. Louie stated that Jay-Z knows him. He said Jay-Z knows him from when he used to run Brooklyn back in the day. In 2014, he was in a movie called We Run the Streets. In 2016, he appeared in a Nas DJ Khaled video called Nas Album Done. In 2018, he played in a movie called Intent 2 with dancehall star Popcorn, which is a Netflix movie. It's doing pretty good on Netflix. But on September 30th, 2019, Louie Rankin died in a car accident. Now, the story goes, reports say that the accident occurred at 9:15 a.m. in Ontario, Canada, and his car ended up crashing into a gravel transport truck on Highway 89, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. It was a head-on collision, y'all. Wow. And as far as the truck driver, he reportedly didn't suffer from any physical injuries. Now, his common law wife and manager named Jules Chaotic, she said she had just spoken to him about 5 minutes before the accident. She stated that he was in the studio recording for his new album, and he was very tired and had to drive 3 hours to get home, but he was drunk. He was 3 times over the legal limit, plus he had marijuana in his system. So, he was under the influence. They say Louie loved drinking his rum, and he did struggle with alcohol abuse. And he did some time. He went to jail. He did some time just a year before for a DUI. And it's crazy because he was just about to drop his new album. He had just announced it 2 days before his death that he would release his third full-length album called The Return of the Don Dada. And he had guest features from Snoop Dogg, SZA, and more. Plus, he was also working on a new movie too. Wow. Now, his baby mom's, Jules, she had to put out a GoFundMe page to help pay for his funeral and help with the kid's future. He had 3 daughters by her. Apparently, Louie had spent a lot of his money funding that album he was working on. Plus, his life insurance had lapsed due to lack of payment, and he did have $100,000 accidental death insurance. He did have that, but how that works, if you die while under the influence, the terms are voided. Wow, that's crazy. And his baby mama Jules just ended up taking the GoFundMe page down. She took the GoFundMe page down due to issues with his family. Man, that's sad, man. She stated that a lot of his money was made in the 90s. And, Louie helped a lot of people that was in need. Man, Louie was a great actor and a great artist. My opinion, man. He was dope. He will truly be missed. He was 66 years old. Rest in peace, the original Don Dada, Louie Rankin.